Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day because we have a great show lined up for you. Where, in the second part of the program, we will be doing computer and technology news. Time permitting, we'll cover all the latest news stories, and we have a lot of very interesting ones. And but in the first segment, as we are wont to do, we have, of course, a guest. But today's guest, very excited for to have them back on the show. We have Intel, and more specifically, we have the VP of Gaming at Intel. So obviously, yesterday, if you were listening, we talked with, I guess the gentleman putting together TIFCA and the idea of future computing and what that means. And Intel is of course going to be presenting there, and kind of wanted to come on the show and talk about what they have to offer as well. So looking forward to that conversation. We'll have that in just a moment. But first things first, a couple of things, including first, happy BlizzCon, everyone. Every year, I really do look forward to this, and hopefully all of you out there are really excited for what they're going to be showing out at BlizzCon. Personally, looking forward to anything World of Warcraft / the Arena Invitationals they're doing. But all weekend long, I guess I'm spoken for. So everyone, I hope you are ready for that. And the second thing, as usual, is computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find anything for today's show, be it any products, any website, anything we talk about here today, we will include in the show notes so that you have one easy place to go to if you want to find something out, or if your hands are tied, if you're driving. Don't worry, we have you covered. Also, be sure to check out the social media contests brought to you by Logitech, as well as the live video feed, which you can also find over at twitch.tv /Computer America. So all that being said, again, I hope everyone out there is having a great day, and we can just kind of jump right into this. So joining us, I'm sure everyone out there knows who Intel is, and really looking forward to our conversation, is Mr. Frank Soqui, and he is the VP of Gaming at Intel. So, Frank, thank you for joining us, and hey, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. I love talking about what's going on in computing and where the future's going and our involvement with TIFCA. I like your show a ton, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, our conversation with I got this. Here we go. Our conversation with Neil Schneider, there we go, was very interesting because I think everyone going out there to TIFCA and of course the future of computers and things like that, everyone is not, I wouldn't even call it hopeful. Everyone's just excited. They're waiting for it to get here, and it's already here. So I'm sure that Intel has been putting in a lot of equity. Before we get started, give us a quick run through. Normally I say, tell us about Intel. I think we know about Intel, but if you will give us a quick synopsis and how you find yourself working with the company.
Well, so, gosh, I've been with Intel quite a number of years. I actually started out in the communications side of things. So Intel's actually been in communications probably as long as I've been at Intel. So I've been there 37 years. That's how I kind of find myself initially here. But my journey with them has been basically a journey through computing, right? How computing is becoming more and more immersive for business and for consumers. It's really about that journey that computing has always been on, right? How people connect with computing and to other people because of computing. And I love the fact that that journey has been also Intel's journey in building out more and more of what's needed to bring those kind of capabilities to bear. All of our, I'll call it end-to-end assets, from cloud to edge computing to networks to all the way to the device and the PC side. And I got to tell you, that's fundamentally why Intel's focused on being a data-centric company, bringing those assets to bear as people advance what they want to be able to do in the business and certainly the gaming and entertainment side. Means that we shape those end-to-end investments to support that, and absolutely love working with partners to bring those solutions to market.
Yep, and obviously, the history of computing and the history of what we've been able to do up until this point has been, very much how do we work with what little we have. But year after year, I'm talking like in the early mid 90s, late 80s, and I think we're finally getting to the point where the limiting factor, not in all cases, is just the transferring of data, the speed of the communication. So now we're getting to the point where less compression is needed, less tricks behind the curtain are needed, and we're finally getting to the point where, hey, we can just have we have fun and we can stream applications. I think that cloud, not just cloud computing, but being able to stream video games, where I'm not talking about recording yourself playing them, but actually having someone else or another computer do the processing power, and you just get to enjoy the full experience of the game on maybe a not so technically advanced computer. There's a lot of and I guess this bridges into our first question, future computing, and let's talk about what that means to you, and if at all that's related. What excites you about the future of computing?
I think I'll go to a little point you made a bit earlier. It says it feels like we're finally to the point where we don't have to do some of the tricks or the compressions. But what I've noticed about this is, as soon as you unleash a little bit more compute or capabilities in the network, and you say, "Gosh, it feels like we've finally solved this problem," pops up a new opportunity for things to become more immersive, or think even infinite worlds in terms of gaming. Every time we unleash more performance capability, people go fill that with a tremendous software spiral and a workload. I'd like to think that right now we're not limited by imagination or what we want to happen. We're limited because technology moves at a certain rate and pace. And once we solve some bottlenecks and problems, people come up with even more creative ways to go use that. So when I think about the future of computing is unleashing people's possibility thinking, and allows them to do things they were never able to do before. I got to tell you, if you rewind it 10 years, you would say, "Oh wow, computing's pretty awesome. We have everything we need." And it's just never true. Thank goodness there are people out there that want more than we can deliver, and every time we deliver, they want even more. And it goes right to the core businesses as well as entertainment and gaming.
Right, yeah, and we can actually speak to that to a certain extent, because obviously you are presenting out at, or at least Intel is presenting out at Immersed 2018, and Immersed, we talked to them last year, we talked to them this year. VR, AR, mixed reality, whatever phrase you want to kind of throw out there, but they like you said, it's not just entertainment. A lot of enterprise, a lot of business, a lot of behind the scenes. What you're doing isn't just helping people play, faster, slicker looking games, but you're actually helping to change industries, because I know one of them is one very exciting field is VR in education. So if you, so more specifically towards Intel, what are you, kind of highlighting out there at Immersed 2018?
So I'm going to be talking about our direction in computing overall, right? No surprise of the future of computing, but I'm going to focus on it as a end-to-end conversation. Why I think it's important and crucial as we see where the future is going in immersive experiences and in transforming business models and new audience engagement. We think all of that's going to be very, very important. I won't just be talking about AR and VR. It's tempting to try to break down an advancement in immersive kind of capabilities down to one specific thing. But I think there's a lot of technologies that create immersive experiences beyond just virtual reality. So I'll cover things like how do we engage more collaboration from a business perspective or more players in the audience. I see a future technology that's going to take into account more focus around things like eye tracking and haptics and how you feel in the game, voice controls and translation, kind of language translations, because people want to be connected all across the world. I'll talk about the idea that there are infinite worlds getting created where the players and audience actually interact more with lifelike experiences. So players are becoming part of the game now, or interacting with the game, not just the players. So those are the things I'll be talking about beyond just AR and VR that are going to create a lot more immersive experiences. And absolutely, AR and VR are critical components, but there are so many others that are going to drive immersive experiences at compute, which is why I'm excited to be talking about that.
And not to change the topic at all, but we just had a conversation with IBM. We're actually going to play it eventually, but it was a very interesting conversation with their research arm where they were talking about their not even speech to text recognition, but they were talking about also how to I guess analyze text and speech and what words you use and how you say it to get emotion back from it. And some of the big games out there are trying to be immersive, RPG, so on and so forth. My point is that I know I said a couple of those mediums, but data seems to be obviously the biggest innovation that's happening over this year and the coming years. It's not so much that you track did they choose option A or option B, but you get to track did they choose option A quickly, were they agitated, did they do this, and being able to turn very minute data points into further interaction with the player. Is that something you're excited with? Obviously that's business applications, but hey, I like video games as well.
Yeah, that's a great example of a type of focus that we want to be part of. The other one I would say, when you think about analyzing speech and text, is we want to make gaming a safe and inclusive place for people to go participate in. So you can also analyze language and say, hey, there's people here that shouldn't be using this type of language, or it becomes somewhat toxic. And I think that's fundamental to anything that includes social media. But giving the tools available to developers to call that out, and then letting users control how they want to go participate in a game, I think is going to be really important. So there are a lot of ways of applying how you address language, right? For emotion, to address toxic environments, for translation. Just think about it. It's just the way, like I said earlier, it's the way people want to interact with compute and to each other through compute that's going to be really enhanced by these capabilities.
I won't lie. Obviously I do play a lot of games, and when a lot of the bigger games are very hesitant to give people voice communications, because at least with like a chat log and text, you're able to look back and analyze and say they use this word and you can show proof. But when it comes to voice, you really don't have those barriers. You can't censor someone in real time. Very interesting that that I guess there's been some kind of effort to help reduce toxicity, because it's I think everyone out there should do their best to make sure that everyone is happy and enjoying the game, and people don't enjoy it when you're getting yelled at. But again, just surprising that that you've narrowed that down, that's a pain point for gaming. So
yeah, that's another significant pain point. You want parents to feel comfortable that the kids are there, and even as adult, because the demographics for gaming are broad. Everybody games.
Yeah.
Even as an adult, it's like, okay, I don't want to hear your narrative about politics or cursing, I'm here to play the game.
Yeah.
And I've seen forums like Discord that can be used as methods of choice, right? If you like that kind of behavior and environment, hey, go to those environments. And if you don't, hey, there's an environment, because we can identify. Right now, human beings have to deal, but if we could identify toxic environments and give you a way of choosing to go, connect with people who are focused on gaming. I'll admit it. I'm actually a Pokemon Go player, right? So and I'm in various chats where people will go, "Come on, guys, I only want to hear about how we're going to do trades. How come you're talking about all of this, other stuff?"
Yeah.
So I think it gives these kind of controls will give people the ability to have a choice and self-organize and create environments for them that are inclusive. And for the people that want the free-for-all Wild Wild West, I think there's a place for that too. But then they can go choose those things.
Yeah, no, it's and obviously we've seen a couple different solutions, even so far as taking those people who do cause problems and grouping them together with similar people who cause problems, and it's kind of segmenting them into their own people that they obviously enjoy to play with. So, but we've deviated a little bit. Let's get back real quick to Intel and your role in particular, because I believe you are the chair of the Computing Technologist Group within TIFCA. TIFCA, we talked all about it with Neil yesterday, but they have different pillars and different segments that they're focused on, and of course there's interrelation between them. But talk about what you hope to do by kind of teaming up with others within the industry, and what is Intel doing with the Technologist Group?
Well, so what we're doing here is we're working with member companies and other institutions to kind of lay down the groundwork behind this concept of the future of computing. We want to enhance the viability of building what's next, and what's next requires more than just any single element. I'll go back to what I said a little bit earlier in the context of immersiveness. It's always tempting to think, hey, we can break it down to one thing. It's all about VR. Mm-hmm. In the future of compute, it's tempting to think, hey, it's all about the CPU or it's all about graphics, all about one thing. Well, it's not. Because these worlds are getting much more immersive and collaboration is getting a lot more detailed, these workloads are really, really dynamic. They can become quite immersive and interactive, and they can become quite detailed. So that requires an end-to-end, not only an end-to-end look, but a way of looking at this that we're partnering with other industry leaders to bring solutions to market. We sell components and technology to customers, but what I'm interested in is above and beyond is my customers' customers, because they think of these things as solution problems and solution challenges. So this gives us a chance to go have those conversations, talk about what the challenges are and what we need to be doing in the future. It helps me also shape my own technology. So I'd like to think I'm going to give as good as I get from this kind of engagement.
No, absolutely, and of course that's what that's what conferences and things like TIFCA really do, is facilitate that communication. Because I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're obviously there. I don't think all of you in all the higher ups and all the different tech companies are like in the same Discord channel, and you guys are just it's like, hey, what are you up to? There has to be some kind of open communication. So hey, this is obviously very, very important. Yep. Speaking to, again, your role with Intel and and what Intel's hoping to do there, you mentioned that the future of computing. Now, this is something that I always like to bring up, and it's that year over year, the death of the personal computer, the death of the PC, and long live the tablet, laptop, smartphone, every other medium you could possibly think of. And yet, Intel just came out with, I believe it was their 9th generation. It was like the i9 9900K or something like that, or 9700K. You guys are still releasing, great products for PCs and enthusiasts. And in fact, the price points are going up, but so are the specs. What people demand of a PC continue to increase. So obviously, the industry is not dead. PCs are not dead. And you mentioned cloud computing. Where do you see PC, cloud computing, and all these other systems, kind of in the future? Is there still a place for PC? Is cloud computing going to continue to grow over the years? Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can parse that a bit. First, let me begin with a very hard and clear hypothesis that I think continues to prove itself out. First, everything today, every compute workload, including PCs, every PC workload is cloud enabled. And what I mean by that, if you take gaming as an example, I'm playing the game on the PC by and large, but I'm streaming, which requires cloud and network infrastructure. Mm-hmm. I'm matchmaking to other players, which requires cloud and networking infrastructure. I'm buying in-game content, which is managed through the cloud. I'm, streaming everything and saving it later for streaming. I'm having social interaction. So everything is already cloud-enabled. But I think part of your question, I think you're asking, is from a cloud-centric point of view.
Right.
I think we've seen every form of media transformed by some sort of cloud-centric point of view, whether it was ebooks or music or movies getting distributed. Cloud is going to be a challenge for highly latency sensitive workloads that have a lot of data behind them. So, for example, when I say highly latency sensitive, doing keyboard mouse interactions that's from something that is cloud, running in the cloud is going to be difficult. But we believe this is the trend that every sort of form of entertainment is on. And media entertainment is on anyway. It's just coming to gaming last because of the serious challenges there. And we think from that point of view, we see opportunities with 5G networks. We see opportunities with putting cloud capabilities near the edge and like central offices to kind of deal with some of these latency sensitive interactions. But no matter what we come up with, it'll never be low latency enough. So the other point of view we have on this one is this is going to impact and shape the capabilities in the PC, and we want to be at the front end of understanding that. So we absolutely embrace the fact that everything's cloud-enabled, and from a cloud-centric point of view, it's a very challenging environment, but dealing with hard problems and addressing those is what we're good at, and we'd like to see ourselves in the middle of solving that.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of problems that Intel is trying to tackle do actually, kind of butt up against the laws of physics and, the speed of light, communication, and just the laws of physics are very unyielding. So I can see where it can be a little, and for everyone out there who's kind of, asking, what do you mean? One thing I always like to point to is the fact that people will spend hundreds of dollars to buy a monitor that goes from 4 milliseconds down to 1 to 0 milliseconds latency time. So, if people are that invested to reduce latency, it's obviously it's a huge problem for a lot of people. So, but with that, I did actually want to jump over back to the PC because you said cloud, you're working on that. That's great. But the PC, Intel has been talking about PC innovation this year, in a space that, I guess a lot of people really weren't expecting innovation. But talk about what has you excited about the PC? Is it your processors? Is it, what has you excited?
Wow, there's a ton of things. First of all, it does begin with you've got to keep the core performance and the CPU and the graphics and the memory and the storage, all highly tuned because people are going to keep pushing the envelope of what they can do with gaming. And what they push today on the edge for gaming is going to become kind of tomorrow's mainstream gamers as they keep pushing forward. So that's always going to keep me very excited about opportunities in compute. But the other thing that's kind of getting me excited is this concept that's been emerging around infinite worlds, infinite gaming worlds, and the democratization of gaming, meaning everyone at some point is going to be able to develop a game or contribute to the development of a game. And what that means to me is that these giant worlds are going to get created with huge environments and social interactions that people are going to be able to not only participate in but contribute to. And that means everyone's going to have capabilities to go do that.
Yeah, and real quick, Frank, I've this is actually a little bit new territory for me because I've heard of things like procedurally generated worlds, where like No Man's Sky, an algorithm puts together trillions of combinations and you get that. Could you kind of define what you mean by people, contributing themselves to video games?
Yeah, so think of this as some of the simple tools that are emerging. I'll use VR as an example. So Sansar is essentially creating a set of tools for anybody to create virtual reality environments. Think about whether it's virtual reality or otherwise, people being able to create those kind of gaming environments. To create game, I think we've seen like two-person companies start up and do amazing things with games. But I'm talking about having people participate and do gaming add-ons. Think of this oversimplistically as what Overwolf is doing with overlays inside of a game, but now translate that into I can actually enhance a part of a game by adding another element to that gameplay, another either character or a different part of that world and extending that. When you get everybody with those tools in their hands, they're creating elements of that gameplay that extend beyond what the developer can do.
And way at the beginning, I mentioned it's BlizzCon, and I've been playing Blizzard games since I was like 4 years old. But my middle school, early high school life was dominated by Warcraft 3, and Warcraft 3 is a fun game, but the thing that gave it longevity, the thing that made it interesting year over year, and really captured a lot of people was the fact that they had a map editor, and people could go in and change it however they saw fit. And it really added that depth because, no matter how many people you put on a payroll, you will never have the creativity of, thousands or millions of players.
That is absolutely spot on. And then think about this from an audience perspective, right? So the other thing related to that would be improving the way the audiences experience and engage during gameplay. Do they become the non-player characters? Oversimplistically, think of this as I become the zombie. But there's an equivalent of this if you go watch basketball, right? If somebody's trying to shoot a free throw, the audience behind is trying to disrupt the player.
Yeah.
They're not technically on the court, but they're trying their best to impact the output of a shot. Well, why wouldn't the audience become non-player characters or have improved social interactions like translation, or giving the audience control of how they view the game in their point of view? Intel's done this with the sports group, allowing you to watch a football game from any angle. What if that was translated directly into what can be done within games? Hey, I don't just serve it up the way I think you want to see it. I'm serving it up the way you want to see it. And then you add technologies like artificial intelligence to be able to be predictive or anticipate where certain gameplay is going to be exciting and make recommendations to the audience. We've completely forgotten the audience as part of this overall experience and getting them into that game, not even though they're not the player, and letting them control experiences and impact outcomes. I think is going to be really exciting. So that's the other thing that's, for me, pretty exciting what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, but again, the question, anything that excites you about PC innovation this year?
Your question is, I
kind of stopped you in the middle of answering. I thought, maybe you had another point. If not, that's perfect.
No, then I would say that the whole immersiveness idea I brought up earlier, we're seeing early kind of implementation experiments with eye tracking controls. And when I say haptics, it's like sensors that make you feel like you're in the game. It would be nice to play with your friend, be able to tap them virtually on the shoulder and they actually feel it on their side, or the voice translations and things like that. I think it's actually going to invite a larger set of players into this growing gaming market. People that aren't good at keyboard and mice, for example, are going to be able to interact inside of games and compete differently. So I'm really looking forward to things like that.
Right. No, perfect sense, because I think up until this point, for a lot of people, it's either been console or PC. But if you are just not intrigued at staring at a screen, or if you're not intrigued by playing with others in a console social setting, varying the ways that you can play games, I think is going to obviously appeal to more people. Like I was just talking to my brother. We played video games growing up all the time, and he just said that I'm not a gamer anymore. He doesn't play video games. I can only attribute that to he doesn't find enjoyment in the way that he used to when he interacts with games. So maybe VR will be right up his alley. I don't know. We'll have to check that out. So, and actually, if you could speak to, we have the Intel website up. We're looking at, some of the products and things that you have up here. And one thing I see popping up more and more, obviously, this has a, kind of a niche setting, but it appears to be growing, judging by how much emphasis Intel is putting on it. Talk about the idea that you mentioned the audience is part of the experience. Streaming yourself playing video games went from a crazy idea where you maybe had 100 people to, I think BlizzCon is going to be streaming, most of their events to hundreds of thousands of people on the internet in real time. And not just like a TV broadcast, but something that I really enjoy is that you kind of provide a chat room. You provide, this group think off to the side. Talk about streaming yourself, not just big events, but anyone who has a good enough computer can turn on their stream and get talking with people.
Yeah, I absolutely agree in the fact that the audience is growing quite large. For Intel Extreme Masters, we had 46 million watch the championship, for example, online as it was streamed. right? When you get audiences that big, what you're looking at is what is it they want to be able to do that they can't do today as an audience. They want to be able to consume that on any device. Right? They want to see it on the TV or the phone or the PC, whatever device they happen to go be picked at that particular moment. So streaming has got to comprehend a wide set of platforms or PCs or compute devices that the user wants to see. But in addition to that, you talked about the side chats, but we're breaking down borders when we do this, right? These games are global in their competition. And so this is where you heard me bring up a little bit earlier. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm talking to somebody in another country and they happen to understand English, but what if there was just simple text translations or speech translations of what I was saying, so people could understand, what was being said by the audience at the other side. And then you add some of the other audience things that I talked about, which is, why do I have to just see it from one point of view, from one streamer's point of view?
Sure.
Why can't I have control over how I see that and view that experience? I want to see it from any angle. I want to be at a different point of view from within that game. So the audience, more than anything else, is the reason for things like esports. Gamers game because they like to compete with each other. But with the advent of esports, it's becoming a very audience-centric thing where gamers connect to the audience and the audience wants to connect to the gamers and to each other, and they want to be part of what's going on. They don't want to be just passively watching it. That's worked, but now how can they be part of that experience is what we're challenging.
Yeah, and just personally, something that I noticed, because obviously I do watch a lot of streams. It's something that I think needs to be improved is the grassroots movement that came from streaming. Currently, you have to either donate money or, in some manner of form, you pay for someone's attention, and that could be a massive, that could be a way to get your message in front of a massive amount of people. And I'm not talking about moderation or anything like that, but I feel like there needs to be a better way to, it's fun when there's 15,000 people in a stream and they're all talking and they're all reacting to the same thing in the same way. But if there's a way that you can harness 15,000 people and have some kind of overall narrative that they can all contribute to, I don't know if that involves, I don't want to say constant polling because that would be super boring, but maybe it's the idea we were talking about, text and analyzing the text and the feeling and the emotion of what's being typed and being able to put that data into a game or in some manner. That would be, I think, a really good next step.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. That gives them the ability to go look for things that have an interest and a community of interest behind it.
Yeah.
Part of that's going to have to include, giving the audience some sort of ability to self-organize as well. I'll oversimplify. Things like Discord are really good at doing that. Right? How do you self-organize for common interests and common discussions, and be able to add that during stream gameplay? Seems like it would be a pretty cool thing to do.
Yep. Obviously, there's like I said, it's new. It came out of nowhere, and I think it's continuing to evolve. So, speaking about continuing to evolve, we mentioned earlier the 9th generation Intel Core processors. It's always fun seeing the next generation of processors come out because just you get that good performance boost. And hey, it's just new shiny toys to play with. So talk about the new line of CPUs. Obviously, you continue on with the i9 designation. I think a lot of Intel longtime people, they are used to the i3, i5, i7. Talk about what's how your lineup is kind of received right now, and what's cool. What's new this year? What is new this year?
Right, so we did announce 3 new 9th generation Intel Core desktop processors. It was Core i5 9600K, Core i7 9700K, and a Core i9 9900K.
Yeah.
And for the Core i9, this was like up to 8 cores, 16 threads, 5 gigahertz, 16 mega cache in a LGA socket, the desktop socket, right? And the idea behind this one is, within that family, including our 9th generation, our Core i9, is we are unlocking these, we call them K SKUs, to level up, and we're enhancing that with more PCI Express lanes for people to add more storage and graphics. and we have a set of features and technologies in this generation that include how we enable faster frames per second on some popular game titles, or how we apply with what we're calling Intel Turbo Boost Max or Turbo Boost 2.0. That enables all the way up to 5 gigahertz across all the cores, so gamers can play the games with faster frames per second than previous generations. Or if you think about it this way, it's tempting to compare gen on gen, but somebody's got a 2 or 3 year old PC, and this will be 45% faster than the PC they've had for a few years. We talk about things like the video editing, because part of what we're doing here is we're appealing to the creator side. A lot of creators go buy the fastest PC they can get, and they tend to be gaming PCs. So with things like Adobe Premiere, you get up to like 34% faster video editing compared to previous generation, or almost 100% faster than one compared to like 3 years ago. What else? We have, I talked a little bit about overclocking, but we also have the Intel Extreme Tuning Utility. So they can actually provide tools to help people overclock, and some advanced tools for those guys who like to really dig into every little detail. So those are the things where we're focusing on with our 9th gen from a cores and threads perspective, from our Turbo Boost technology, faster frequencies, better frames per second. It's just an amazingly smooth, liquid smooth type of capability for the best of gaming that you can get today.
So, and one part of this, and also I wanted to touch on, some of your, like, I want to say enthusiasts, but I think even enthusiasts are like, man, that is a lot of power. I believe it's the, if I Googled this correctly, the i9-9940X in your X series of processors, which lie somewhere between your, the tippy top of the i9s and the, I guess somewhere technologically different from the Xeon processors, but they're pretty similar to the Xeon processors that are meant for like business applications and things like that, with lots of checks and things like that. But now you are giving people that option of, if money is not a concern, we have something that you are going to love, and I believe that's the X series of processors, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have our X series processors really for designed for premium content creation. There's also, of course, the Intel Xeon. I think it's the W3175X processor. That's a 28-core, workstation powerhouse.
Yeah.
So it'll have more cores than the non-Xeon versions.
And
there's a value proposition.
And I guess real quick, just jump in here. I guess I shouldn't say money isn't an option, but we have a regular who works on a lot of Hollywood kind of stuff, and he does contract work for video editing. And if he can spend, let's say, $2,000 on a processor, but over the life of that processor, it saves him hours upon hours of sitting there trying to render something. That's the value proposition, is that it saves you time, which saves you money.
Yeah, that was the example I gave earlier with Adobe. I mean, it's almost 100% faster than a 2 or 3 year old system that you had, and that's all the time in the world. I think of this from a content creator's point of view. Do they really want to sit around waiting for that thing to get done? The last thing you want to do with someone creative is disrupt their creative flow of thinking, so they got to go take a coffee break and come back and then like restart themselves.
Yeah,
they want as real time sort of rendering and content creation as they can get, because typically they're going to be next to either collaborating or in front of the final producer, and he wants real time results. Hey, change this and tell me where we're going. Or she's going to ask, what if scenarios, and can you show me a few of them? Well, yeah, go away for 4 hours and come back. Well, that's not going to work.
Right, and then on top of that, let's see, I had another point about the i9. It was, oh my God, I can't believe that just flew right out of my mind. So it will probably come back after I ask you our next question, but so
let me say, because I think you were trying to compare the X series with Xeon. I mean, fundamentally, Xeon's for professionals that work in enterprise type environments. They're going to want vPro technology capability, a way to secure and manage those things inside of larger enterprise environments. It's going to have ECC capabilities. The X series processors don't do that. Right. The X series processors are absolutely built for people who want performance, but are maybe not operating inside of a managed enterprise, where vPro, as well as error correction and stability the stability and reliability we build into the X series processors above our core series are gonna be valued.
Makes perfect sense. Actually, I recalled it, and watching the video portion, I'm sure just saw that light bulb come back on. This actually kind of relates with what you're doing with TIFCA and the fact that you do communicate with other people in the industry. And hey, because we have you here now, why not clear up this? Maybe I've been spouting misconceptions for a number of months or years now, but you mentioned like things like Adobe, but not a lot of programs. They have to be designed to take advantage of a certain number of cores and threads. Many, let's say, video games out there or everyday programs that people may use may only, anticipate that, I guess a couple of years ago, that 2 cores is about all a person was willing to give to a program. No one wants to use a browser that's going to slow down their entire processor by utilizing, 6 cores. I wanted your opinion on the fact that obviously 8-core, 16-thread, that's certainly getting up there. Mm-hmm. You mentioned one with 28 cores. I think that translates to 56 threads.
That's the Xeon, yeah.
Yeah, but you can kind of see the trend about where processors are going, and there's going to be more cores and threads in the future. There's, than what we traditionally had. Is there any kind of initiative to get people to, start designing, I don't know if there's conversations or if you're just going to put it out there and hope people take advantage of what you're putting out there, but is there any kind of conversation about increasing or the number of programs that actually will utilize more cores and threads to give users a better experience in those programs versus, I guess just saying everything has 2 cores, so you can have the best, you can have an 8-core, but these programs won't run any better because, hey, they only use 2.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, some programs are always going to be designed for, call it least common denominator platform because they want to touch as many platforms, and they're not as concerned about the experience that they're delivering. So that there's always going to be that part of the market that does that, and that's fine. But you're calling to mind 2 elements I want to speak to. One is Intel doing anything there? Absolutely. We work with, I think, every major gaming ISV as well as the gaming engines to make sure that as we deliver more performance, frequency, and cores and threads, that their engines and their applications are able to take advantage of those. So that it's not just something we do today. It's something we've been doing. It's part of our DNA. We've been doing for decades. In addition to that, let me address the whole 2-core thing. I think whenever you're doing one thing, you might be tempted to say less cores are all you need. But the interesting thing about gaming is people don't want to do just one thing, thank goodness. What they're doing is they're playing the game and, I want to stream this live. Oh, really? Well, that's another workload. That's not, technically the game itself, but you're running a streaming capability. Oh, and I want to be capturing my gameplay for later editing at the same time that I'm streaming. Somebody's talking to me now in social media. You want to add the voice translation? And I mean, everything that they want to do is creating more workloads on core. So although those look like maybe 4 or 5 discrete applications, those applications are working in the context of what I'm doing while I'm gaming. And those are quite aspirational. People like to do that so much that I've seen one of two things happen. They either buy 2 PCs, because they want one to stream and they don't want it to interrupt their gameplay. Remember the latency conversation we had earlier. Or I've seen a chassis that actually has 2 small motherboards in it so they can dedicate one motherboard to streaming and one motherboard to gameplay. And that, I'm oversimplifying it to make a point, which is these are highly immersive and interactive. They're more than just playing the game. They're doing so many other things at the same time that it's hard to say that the minimum amount of cores is 2 or 4 anymore.
Right. And that's certainly the case. And I was also speaking to the fact that, programs themselves need to start to take advantage of some of these cores because 8 and 16 certainly gives you plenty of headroom to multitask. But I think even as you kind of push beyond that 10, 20 or, what have you, the more, I guess, Intel puts out there, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. The more Intel puts out there, the more I think programmers are going to start to trust that, they're not going to be compromising user experience by utilizing more cores.
Yeah, by the way, we also take a platform view of this. So what I mean by that is it's tempting to always break it down, like I said earlier, to one thing. Certainly the CPU is important in being able to, unleash the capabilities and the performance here. But the other things we're focused on are around communications, improving what we're doing with Wi-Fi and LAN technologies, our Optane memory and storage technologies to make things faster is really important. And we're talking about the future of where Optane is going in terms of persistent memory. It's just everything we're doing is now thinking about this at a platform level, including graphics. We have great integrated graphics. Intel's on a path to go create discrete graphics. We've got to make sure we address every performance bottleneck there is. So it's not just about cores and threads, although that has been the ride we're on right now. And now we're finding other bottlenecks in the system that we're going to have to unleash and enable developers as well as the game engines to go be able to take advantage of for the best gameplay possible. Because I talked to you about the future where gaming's going. There's no end to that.
Yeah,
that I can see. And so we're going to have to bring more of the platform elements to bear beyond CPU.
Right, and hey, I would say that I was very interesting. Very interested about the processor because as far as Intel goes, people will, and when I say people, I mean general consumers. I know that you have a lot of business, kind of association there, but as far as people go, when they purchase things from Intel, it's going to be, either embedded in other people's products, which, like you said, memory and storage and things like that. Networking, which is going to be embedded in motherboards and things like that. But as far as the Intel logo, it's going to be processors and I guess maybe just a couple pieces of memory, things like that. It's so I guess that's why I was just kind of gravitating towards it. But definitely, you have a lot of different elements to work on there. Now let's get back to the fun part again. Video games. We mentioned a couple times, maybe we already answered this, but I feel like hitting it again. Trends in video games. Video games are booming, not just from a player's perspective, like you said. There are players of every demographic. It's not just the 16 to 24 demographic anymore. It's everyone. Everyone can find a video game that they enjoy. What trends are you kind of seeing in the video game market that excite you?
Yeah, some of them were the technology side, and I talked a little bit about Infinite Worlds, but I got to tell you, I think the most exciting thing is the audience side, because when the audience gets engaged, they want to become players. And I think what you're doing is you're removing barriers to their understanding about what a real game is. I would even go so far as to say, let's imagine you were only a phone gamer, light touch kind of phone games, but through your phone, you were able to become an audience and see how people are playing in eSports and interact with them. We're inviting every platform to go be part of those kind of immersive experiences. Yeah. So that's the other thing I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah, and I think we touched on that earlier, but let me change the question a little bit. Maybe this would be more interesting, but more traditional forms of entertainment, let's say a television show, that is produced, made, and put on, and then the only audience interaction that there ever is with, again, let's say a television show, are the ratings. How many people watch this? How many people, and how often did they watch it? Are they still watching it? And then they decide, do we change the writing staff or do we cancel the whole show altogether? You get that immediate feedback with video games and streaming and things like that. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a good thing that the audience can be so, I don't want to say unpredictable because in a lot of ways they're very predictable, but do you think that's something good that separates these mediums? It's not just television on your computer, but it's that interaction, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's always been the defining feature between anything I would call compute and anything that you would call like media consumption. I read an ebook. I listen to music streamed. I watch a movie. You're right. The interactivity is really I can pick the movie or music, or I can fast forward. And not much interactivity. And you could argue, well, they don't need a lot of interactivity. But by definition, when you're interacting on a PC, especially in gaming, I'll ignore the whole collaboration, content creation, workstation type of things. But when you're in a game, you're trying to connect to other people through that medium. People aren't trying to do that in a movie. Matter of fact, if you go to the theater, they're asking you to shut up. They don't want you to speak.
Yeah, they don't want you interacting with the screen.
No, but in this medium, the communications elements between people in computer, people of the game, let's say, and through that game to their audience is just, it's expected, and people are, that's a defining characteristic between this new form of entertainment and the old school form of entertainment. We've asked people, hey, who's your next best, biggest gaming competitor? And we've heard people say, well, I'm not worrying about my gaming competitors. I'm competing with movies. When you sit down to be entertained, I want you to think about gaming first. I don't want you to think about movies. Mm-hmm. So that it's because of that interactivity, that audience connection, the social elements behind that. It's really compelling, and people want to consume that on every device.
Yeah. No, I do not disagree whatsoever, because I find myself actually wanting to put a TV, back in my bedroom and getting, a Chromecast or something like that, so that I can actually watch a stream as I fall asleep, because it's just, even though that's not very interactive, it doesn't seem like it. Watching other people with the interaction is itself a very entertaining aspect of it. So
it is pretty awesome. And I think I've even seen experiments where people are trying to figure out how to give different kind of camera viewpoints of the teams playing against each other, right? They want to see the keyboard mice action and things like that, right?
Yeah,
it is pretty entertaining. Seeing the audience excited about it, seeing the commentators replay about it, seeing the people commentate online, right, outside the game. It is very entertaining, very engaging, right?
Yeah, and actually, obviously, Intel has some experience with this, because you guys have put on IEM, which is the Intel Extreme Masters eSports circuit, which I was an avid watcher of the League of Legends. I believe they had a tour going for a while, and Overwatch, things like that. I mean, Intel Extreme Masters has been one of the most popular esports, I guess, kind of circuits, and it's awesome because the prize pools are getting bigger and bigger every year. I think you can speak to what this year's prize pools are, but it's giving the best of the best, the people who are super competitive, a way to actually make a living. And at the end of the day, you have to realize that if you have to go and get a 9-to-5, then, or if you can't support yourself doing these esports or being a professional gamer, then no one's going to be as satisfied with anyone's performance or the time committed or anything like that. So things like IEM are super, super, super important. Talk about this year and what's happening in Chicago, I believe, November 10th and 11th.
So this is a continuation of what Intel's doing worldwide. We have ladder up type IEM and Intel Extreme Masters events that happen throughout the year. So Chicago is one of them. You're seeing us do this in Sydney and in different parts of the world. Everything is there to attract larger crowds, to give them what they're interested in most, right? Watching their best, biggest teams compete and ladder up into the worldwide event at Katowice, Poland. I think this is our 13th season, for example, and it just keeps getting bigger every year. I think in the event in the last event in the Worldwide Championship, I think we had over 200,000 people physically show up for it.
Wow.
Which, it already beats the Super Bowl physical attendees. And then we had, I think I mentioned earlier, we had like 46 million people watching it stream online, live. I'm like, it's crazy how many diehard fans are out there. And you know what? The prize pools are part of it. They provide the motivation for the teams. But remember, these teams, think of these teams in the context of the way you think of sports teams. Not only do they get sponsorships and prize money, these guys are starting to define their own merch, and they're creating brands for themselves. It's an amazing event, and they're connecting to their to their audience in ways they didn't do before. There was one, oh my gosh, who did this? It was almost like the other phenomenon I saw in addition to esports was this conversion of what's going on with like real sports and esports. Mm-hmm. I forget who it was.
If you're talking about like League of Legends had Rick Fox who did like Echo Fox and was and that was actually a very interesting part of it was he took he actually set a standard where he bought a place he had his players show up strictly at 9 a.m. and he turned it into almost an NBA style training facility for esports. And trust me, the NBA and a lot of other pro sports sponsors took a huge interest in that. You're right. It's that convergence of the same, I guess, kind of styles.
Yep, and then on top of all of that, I think we're seeing a lot more different types of engagement by you would think with companies that were non-traditional. So MasterCard, for example, is improving their high-end fan entertainment with behind-the-scenes kind of things with VIP viewing and pro players. Esports gambling, of course, is there, but now I remember who it was. It was Juju Smith-Schuster, the Pittsburgh Steelers player.
Yeah.
He played Fortnite. He had over 600,000 people watching him and now connecting him with fans in ways he didn't do before. So it's way beyond gaming, just esports and gaming, because now you're connecting other types of media and entertainment and showing, becoming part of that fan base because of what you're doing in a different form of media. Sports would be one simple example of them.
I'll be honest. One thing that I definitely enjoy is that I mentioned BlizzCon. There's going to be a bunch of teams competing on stage, and hopefully Method Orange pulls out a win there. But one of the players for Method Orange, I watch his stream often, and I'm able to go in there and say, "Yo, how's your day? What do you think about this and that?" And he, I talk with him on a regular basis. Obviously, he doesn't know me personally, but he knows me as a chatter in his chat room, and I get to say hi. How you doing? I would never consider having that any kind of conversation like that with the LeBron Jameses or the hugest names that you see up on TV. So it's interesting, and actually brings us to our last point. We have like 3 minutes left. And by the way, you've been a real trooper going through this interview. Thank you so much for joining us. But talk again about Intel and esports. Obviously, Intel's not just a sponsor; they're creating the hardware that these players are competing on. Why is Intel so focused on esports? Is this about just showing people what is possible with your hardware, or is this more hey, this is the future of computer games, and we want to support that?
Gosh, when I think about esports, for us, it's a way to understand and be in the middle of and help connect, what you do in real ways and what you're developing in real ways to the gamers as well as to the audience. When I think about why we're in esports and what our interest in is, getting to being so close means we get to know the esports fans and all the gaming participants because they're so passionate about absolutely are PC enthusiasts, right? It's hard to say that you're getting esports on any other platform other than a PC. But we look at our involvement as a way to kind of connect with these gamers and offer the best gaming experience we can and keep improving what we're doing and as we deliver our CPUs and our graphics and storage capabilities. We like creating and sponsoring esports circuits like Intel Extreme Masters because, it also gives us a way to kind of celebrate the way we're connecting to a community of our users and Intel gamers. And we like to promote. Yes, we like to promote our latest products and our offerings because we believe we have authentic ways of showing them how they're going to, enjoy even better gameplay than what they've done before. I would say, yes, we're a company, but from a brand perspective, we've reached a really good audience through spectators and live streams and people who watch. I think Newzoo was estimating 350 million people who watch esports. And today it's a PC-dominated market, but I would never assume that. We don't want to take that for granted. We want to keep making sure we're delivering the best experience. And the way to do that is because you actually deliver, an esports tournament. You actually connect with your audience and the gamers in ways you couldn't otherwise do, right? You can't do it from outside. You have to understand that because you're doing it from the inside.
Yeah, and of course, there's always a certain level of pushback when it comes to sponsorships and things like that. But I will say that overall, people are starting to really understand and grasp the idea that, as a company, as an entity, you are sharing their values. You also want to see people up on stage in front of massive audiences playing their best to as many people as possible. And regardless of what happens in the middle, that is a common goal shared. So with that, I want to say Frank Soqui, VP of Gaming at Intel. Frank, thank you so much for coming on Computer America. Sorry if I took more time than I anticipated, but this is great.
No, I really enjoyed my time. It flew by for me, and thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. And we look forward to hearing from you again. And of course, anyone out there who wants to check out a link from Intel, we have a link in the show notes, and of course, intel.com. And we'll throw up a couple more links that we had in the conversation. But Frank, until next time, have a great day, and thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. And there he goes, everyone. That's it. That's it for our show. We are flat out of time. Everyone have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America. We actually, kind of canceled the music. We can start it up right now. There we go. Yeah, so we can start right now. But everyone, we're flat out of time. Join us back Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, to talk all things computers and technology. And hey, have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.